This episode of The Dog Show features Devin Stagg. Devin is the marketing manager at Pupford, a company that has helped over 300,000 pup parents overcome their dog's behavioural problems and raise a happy, healthy, and well-behaved pup with their training and products. In the interview, we discuss the growing trends in dog training, including virtual learning and a shift in the way people want to treat their dogs. Devin, welcome to The Dog Show today. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day, I think. We're going to be talking about trends in dog training because you've got a lot of experience working for Pupford, which is a leading kind of online trading platform for puppy owners. But we can talk a little bit more about that in a moment. I can see them in the background if anyone's watching on YouTube, but you've got 3 dogs of your own. So do you want to tell me a bit more about those dogs and why you've ended up with 3 dogs as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I come out right up front with people and I say, I know I'm kind of that crazy dog person. My wife and I talk about it all the time. We've just owned it. We're the crazy dog people in the neighborhood, and that's okay. So, I didn't have any dogs growing up. I used to dog sit a little bit, but when my wife and I bought our first home, this old guy right here, his name's Buddy. That's her dog from since she was basically a kid, and we wanted to, bring him into our house and have him live with us for the last part of his life, and he has always had dogs, other dogs in the household, and so he was bored, and we're like, okay, he needs a friend, he needs a puppy, and so we got our first Labrador puppy, and we had her for a few months with Buddy, and then Buddy's older, he's 15, almost 15 now, but like even a few years ago, he was kind of slowing down, and so he couldn't keep up with the puppy. And we're like, well, now our puppy needs a puppy. So lo and behold, we got a 3rd dog, and it's crazy. Like, it has its moments where, it's a little bit chaotic and, trying to do things like going in the car. It's, the logistics can be a challenge, but it's been super, super fun to just kind of go dive headfirst into like the dog world and have 3 dogs. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, it's interesting, that dynamic of having the extra dogs when you need to actually do things, right? I was chatting to someone yesterday on the show, and I was talking about how I like to get the stimulation of taking my dog out for a walk every day because it's fresh air and it's relaxing and it kind of refocuses my mind. And they were talking about, yes, they have the same experience, but they had 4 dogs, and they were saying it's quite a big effort to take them out.
Yeah, it makes you make some lifestyle changes. Just like, I go running with my 2 Labradors, and I originally tried just doing it with a hand leash that kind of split on the end, and I've worked my way up now where I have like a hands-free goes around my waist, and you figure it out, you adapt, but it has its moments of challenges, that's for sure.
How long do the labs last on a run, or do they outlast you?
Yeah. Oh, they outlast me. And what's awesome is they push me to be faster. I'm not like, I'm a decently fast runner. I've done a couple half marathons, and I found that if I go like any slower than about an 8-minute per mile pace, my dogs kind of, they start pulling me, and they're like, hey, we don't want to be slowing down. And so it's forced me to be faster. So yeah, they're fast, and they'll go. I actually took them on, I think the longest I've done with them is 12 miles.
Okay,
And
wow.
we got home after 12 miles, and they were wrestling in the living room. Like, they were unfazed. So, I mean, that's the nature of Labradors, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's safe to say my French Bulldog wouldn't last 12 miles. But like surprisingly very fast though. I couldn't keep up with her in a running race, but I think I'd probably outlast her in a marathon.
Yeah, those short snout dogs, I get it. So Buddy, the older one up here, he's a puggle, so he's a pug and beagle mix.
Okay.
And so he's got the short snout and the breathing issues of a pug, and yeah, I mean, I know you brought it up briefly that your dog has some health challenges. I don't know if it's related to that, but yeah, those shorter snout breeds, yeah, he's all about short bursts, little sprints, and then he's like, okay, I'll go take a nap now.
Yeah, interesting, because I'm just looking at the photo at the moment, and it's quite a beagle-looking dog actually. When I look at it, but you say it's interesting that it's kind of got the bad health traits of the pug. Probably not ideal.
Well, on top of that, you can kind of see it. He has his tongue sticking out here because he has the beagle tongue. but the pug short snout. And so
Right.
I'm not exaggerating. Probably 90% of the time, his tongue is at least sticking out like a quarter inch. Like, and sometimes he'll fall asleep on the couch and he'll wake up and it's sandpaper and his tongue's been laying on the couch for 2 hours. But yeah, he's a funny dog.
Well, the beagle tongue was meant to be inside a longer mouth, right? So,
Exactly.
um, did you ever get surgery or look into surgery to help correct the breathing issues?
We his hasn't been as extreme as I know some other shorter snout breeds have it with the breathing issues.
Mm.
Um, his is more apparent in his older age, just as his lungs are kind of deteriorating, for lack of a better word. So we never had to go that extreme.
Mm.
Is your dog facing that? Like, have you had to do surgeries for the breathing issues?
We did a surgery when she was younger based on the recommendation of our vet. So every time we would go for a walk, she'd kind of generate a lot of I guess I don't know what you call it. It's like froth kind of stuff coming out of her nose. I'm not using the right word. I'm sure there's a better word for that. But and so she would really kind of struggle even on a short walk or anything like that. And because they have the flat face, the extended soft palate, the French bulldogs I'm talking about, and the closed nasal passages, they did a soft palate surgery, which kind of trims back the soft palate a little bit to open up the airways, and then they also extended the nasal, the space within the nasal passages, and it helped dramatically. And she's much better now. There is sometimes they say it might revert back a little bit, but it was definitely worthwhile for us. But that's not always the case. So.
Yeah, that's good. And it's funny because there's a lot of challenges in the world right now, but like we live in a great time in regards to like there are surgeries like that where you can get those things taken care of, make them better, give your dog a better life experience, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now we can go for hour walks and stuff, and she's fine if it's not too hot. But previously we were going 15-minute walk and would have to pick her up. So yeah, it's dramatically better. Yeah.
Good.
So how did you end up working at Pupford? What led you there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the kind of original founders of Pupford were a couple of my managers at a previous company, who I had worked with really closely. Mike, he's kind of the main head guy here at Pupford. He was my direct report at a previous company, and he left to go start Pupford. I kind of went to a different company for a little bit. We kept in touch. He was a boss, I guess, but we were, friends as well. And he was kind of just doing a lot of the research and development and making those things happen, and we just stayed in touch. And I think we both him and I have like a really strong passion for both marketing and dogs, and so it kind of just led perfectly for me to end up at Pupford. I've worked. I started out my marketing life at an agency, and I learned a lot, but it was a challenge, and I guess I always was feeling like a little bit was longing for something more. I wanted to work in house, right? And I think I've had it's more fun, it's more enjoyable to really like dive deep into an industry and just learn as much as you can about it. And I think it was perfect timing as well, because I'm trying to think exact timelines, but roughly when I started at Pupford was right a few months after we got our third dog. And so I was like, my life is dogs now. This is the perfect career. This is the perfect place to be working, because, I was starting to like build a real passion for dogs and trying to understand them and trying to live with them and, create like a good environment for them. And it was just kind of a perfect fit to end up at Pupford.
Well, I'm glad that you've seen the light too. I've dipped my toe into agency life in a former life. Yeah, it wasn't for me either. The dog life is much more enjoyable and fulfilling, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, because I think we all have moments like when whatever our job is, whatever our day to day is, where you have days where you're like, man, I don't know if I love this. Like I'm tired or X, Y, and Z different thing. And when you have something that you're like passionate about, and you can tie it back to like, okay, this is important. Like I enjoy dogs. You're helping dogs. Like you're helping people have a better relationship with their dog. Like it gives you meaning. And I think Yeah, the agency life, like you said, a former life, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to work with dogs. It really, really is. I feel lucky every day. I know that's kind of cliche, right? But I really do feel lucky to work in the dog space, and I'm sure you can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. And many of the people I speak to on the show, they talk about that they've had a former job or something where, as you mentioned, they're having a lot of days where they're not feeling fulfilled or they're not enjoying themselves. And they, like a lot of people just assume that's, work. But once you kind of get into the dog space, it's like it's this whole new world. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still days where you feel like you probably don't want to get up and do it, but there's a lot more days where it's really a lot of fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think like it's nice to in our situation here at Pupford, we have the capability to bring our dogs in from time to time, and sometimes I'll bring usually Buddy in because he just likes to sleep. But I'll bring him in, and you have those moments where you're frustrated, something goes wrong, and it's like, what is the point of this? And then you like look down and you just pet a dog, and you're like, that's what this is all about. Like, dogs are amazing creatures, and yeah, we're lucky. Like you and I both, like we are lucky to be in the dog space.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you're ever really frustrated at work or you can't focus, you can't get anything done, take your dog for a 5 minute walk outside, and you'll come back in and you'll feel rejuvenated and ready to go. Well, that's my experience anyway. So.
I agreed 100%.
So I'm interested to hear a bit more about the dog training industry, because there's traditionally there's it's been quite a disparate industry with lots of different dog trainers all over the world, right? With the I guess the social media world that's taken over, and the digital access that people have from all over the world to training modules and things like that. It's changed a lot over the last decade, but you've got a unique vantage point because Pupford have a huge range of courses available for people. Are you seeing any trends at the moment in that space which are interesting?
Yeah, one of the like when I was kind of preparing for this, there's so many things that came to mind, but I think the biggest one that stood out to me has just been the way people want to treat their dogs. And a lot of that goes back to, even 15, 20 years ago, at least here in the United States, like most people's dogs, like probably were just in the backyard. You'd go out and give them some food. Like, but nowadays, like dogs live in our home. Sometimes they sleep in our bed. They go on vacations with us. For a lot of people, we kind of have changed our lifestyle to fit more in with our dogs. And I think a part of that feeling of like dogs are family, dogs are more than just an animal in our backyard, is we want to treat them humanely. And in the dog training world, like you said, it's kind of this vast landscape of you have trainers on all sides of the spectrum on how they train or how they methods that they go about. But I think generally what I'm seeing, especially from the kind of younger ish, I don't know, however you want to call the age generation, but the people who are having dogs right now, or maybe having dogs instead of kids, or both, like that millennial, whatever you want to call it, they want to use humane methods, and because they love their dogs and they treat them like family. And I think there's a lot more, I don't know, kind of empathy that's coming into the dog world and how we interact with our dogs, and that's spilling over into dog training, where in the past you had methods that again, there are so many different ideas and ideologies around dog training, but in my personal opinion, you had a lot of methods that were a little bit inhumane and probably didn't put the dog first, and I don't think really did a great job of like connecting with our dogs and relying on communication. And I think those are starting to kind of phase away, as we as pup parents look at our dogs more as family. We want to treat them more kindly and more humanely. That's probably the biggest overarching trend that I've seen.
Yeah, and how do you find that plays out in terms of the information or training things that people are looking for?
Yeah, I mean, you can go and look at just even like Google search trends and see like the verbs of or the words of positive reinforcement training, or force free training that people are wanting. They'll go and they'll look right away and they want to know what methods you're using. You go to most trainers' Instagram profiles, and right away you'll see are they positive reinforcement based? Do they use X, Y, or Z tool? Like they're very upfront about it because pup parents, they want to know right away, like what type of methods they're going to be getting involved in. And they want to make sure those methods line up with their belief system.
Yeah, I'm interested. Do you notice that there's any type of dog breeds more so than others that are looking for this type of training? I'm just thinking on the run about. There's obviously stereotypes around every type of dog breed, right? But I wonder if it's those ones that you mentioned that are more kind of part of the family, living in the house, all of that kind of stuff, which are typically less active or smaller dogs, right? Than maybe the ones that are out on the farm or something like that, and they're just running all the time and everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think generally it probably applies across all breeds, but I definitely think that just going along with like kind of the breeds that are springing up and being more popular, like the French Bulldog or the mini Golden Doodle, like I feel like that's, we have a lot of, we ask, we have a free class and we have asked the class members to take a survey, and so we get information on breed, and a lot of it kind of just goes in line with what the most popular breeds are. But I think, yeah, a lot of the doodles, those are the biggest, at least in the States. Again, it's like, I feel like you scroll through your Instagram for 10 posts and you're going to see 5 of them are just, a golden doodle or a labradoodle or something doodle. So I think, you see a lot of that. But I think generally it spans across most breeds. And I think even you talked about stereotypes and, working dog stereotypes too, like the German Shepherd dogs or, collies and shepherds that are the high energy and are often more kind of in line with like working dogs. I think even those breeds, a lot of people are, turning to more humane methods, and going for that kind of force-free approach, even with higher energy dogs.
Random thought. This is going to sound a bit controversial, probably, but whoever kind of started that trend of just breeding doodles with every other breed to make them better is like the best marketing tactic of all time.
It's funny you say that. I saw an article at one point, and basically the headline was the guy who created doodles originally.
Yeah.
He, has done interviews since, and he basically said, paraphrasing, I created a monster. Like he originally sought out to, he worked with service dogs, and he had a lot of people who, Labradors have been service dogs for a long time, and they have the temperament and that type of thing. But he found, they shed. And so if someone who needs a service dog is also allergic to dogs, what are you going to do? And so his thought was, okay, let's get poodles mixed in. And next thing you know, here we are with, it seems like thousands of different doodle breeds out there.
There seem to be a lot. Funnily enough, I hear that, and I don't know this 100% sure, but having spoken to groomers and different things, funnily enough, not all the doodle mixes, even all the labradoodles, they're not necessarily, they still shed, or some of them still shed. So
yeah, I think the term hypoallergenic is a little bit of a, like you said, a marketing scheme, because every dog has dander, every dog is going to shed a little bit. So like you said, though, I mean, it's quite the marketing ploy that all the doodle integrations have created.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a ploy, but it's worked out. It's worked out that way. So, I guess I think there's probably, and I might be making my own assumption here, but there's probably dog owners out there that assume kind of having an in-person training experience with someone is going to help their dog learn behaviours better than maybe a virtual experience like Pupford offers. What do you do at Pupford to kind of bridge that gap and help people, one, feel comfortable with that environment, but also get the same results as you would as an in-person training?
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a great question and a great point of just like what's happening nowadays. For us at Pupford, we know that we'll never, and we don't even want to replace in-person training, because I think at the end of the day, there is always some instances where, depending on, it's maybe the dog's background, or maybe it's just the humans, maybe they're not comfortable enough with training or whatever it might be, where you just need the help of that in-person trainer. And, just like with with like fitness, right? Like there are still personal trainers and there always will be, although there are now thousands of apps where you can get workout routines. And I think it's, we're starting to see that trend here at Pupford and generally with dogs, in that, you know, we want to be a supplementation to those things. And in some instances, it can be the solution. Especially if you're you have some dog background and you're somewhat familiar with training. I think a lot of it is just people they need a concise way to consume the information. And that's kind of what we've been trying to accomplish, where it's like, yeah, you can go to a puppy class. You might not get a whole lot of focus anyways. And so I think a lot of people just opt for like the accessibility of it. And that's what people like. And that's what people, are finding, hey, I'm a DIYer. I can do this. Like just tell me what I need to do. I'll accomplish it. And I think a lot of people have found that when you combine both like the information, right? So like the modules and, hey, this is what you should do and X, Y, and Z. But then when you combine that with like a support community where you can go and ask questions on the specifics, that's where I think you kind of can bridge the two models. And then of course, again, you're going to have people, you just always need an in-person trainer. But, that's what we've done with our free course that we offer. Is we offer a Facebook community where people can go in and ask their questions and they can say sometimes the most specific things you've ever thought of, like my dog only does X behavior when it's snowing outside and it's a Tuesday, and people be like, oh, that's how my dog was. This is what we did. And so I think like with the virtual stuff in the community aspect is where people can feel like I can be successful with this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess if you hear of someone that's had a similar experience, you feel confident that if they've overcome that, then they can share, tips and tricks that might help you as well. One thing I was just thinking of as you were talking, where I've struggled in the past with teaching new behaviors to my dog, is that discipline of just repeating it over and over again. So even if you have a dog trainer come and, teach you what you need to do, the owner still needs to follow through with, the actual actions daily or to get it done. So is there anything that you provide through the app or that kind of helps people with that reminder to keep that discipline?
Yeah, in our kind of our flagship course, it's called 30-Day Perfect Pup. We partnered with Zach George. The way that we've set that up is that you're actually getting daily email reminders. And those the daily emails, I think the main purpose, like you said, it's just to help you stay on track, because we're all human. We get busy. We want to spend all this time training our dogs, but we have a million things going on. And so, it serves as just that reminder. But then we also include, supplemental information, sometimes blog posts that kind of support that day, products that might help people on those specific behaviors that they're working on. So that's kind of one way we've helped people stay on track. And then within the app itself, because we offer the class both, online on our website and then in the app, we've allowed people to mark off days so they can actually see of the 30-day class. They can see, the calendar of like, okay, I'm on day 10. This is where I need to be. And I think a lot of people have appreciated that, just like the structure. Because I think, like you said, we sometimes we know what we need to do, but we lack the self-discipline to make it happen. And so I think that structure and going back again to the community, I think people having that support group of a community and saying, even if it's virtual, there's some level of accountability that comes back of, I'm in this class with all these other people. I'm going to make sure I'm working towards the same goal.
Yeah, I think accountability is a great word there. I know when I really want to get something done or achieve something, I'll tell someone else about it, knowing that I've kind of committed to that, and I feel like in my head, even if they don't care that much, I'm going to be letting them down as well as myself.
Yeah, it's true, and I think, yeah, you're kind of making me think of some interesting things. We, how it is being in business. Like there's always about 100 different ideas that you have that you want to make happen. We've talked a lot about how do you increase accountability? How do you how do you keep people on track? And that's things we're working on as well, as like, we're working towards where people can go in and say, I want to train, 4 days a week. Let's get us a reminder, that's still in the process. But yeah, like we're working on things to make that easier for people because, at the end of the day, we know how hard it can be to train a dog and to just raise a dog. And so we're trying to do, like you said, help people be more accountable, help people improve, help people stay structured and stay, and reach their goals because it's like anything else in life. Like it's a goal-based thing, training a dog and raising a dog, and it's fun, but it can be a challenge.
I'm sure it's hard from your perspective getting that balance right of what's the right amount to remind people to do things and keep them accountable, and what's too much. Because I know there's some apps and some products I use which just have it right, and there's others that overdo it, and there's some that underdo it and you forget about them. So there's obviously a balancing act, and everyone's probably slightly different as to their preferences and how they interact. So
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of part of why it's still in the works is we're still trying to figure out and exactly like you're saying, it's like, okay, if people say they want a daily reminder, we'll give it to them, but it's like at what point, hey, you're not opening reminders, do you want this anymore? That type of thing. Like, yeah, it's always that kind of that balance with, especially with apps. You don't want to be intrusive, but you also want to be, people downloaded the app for a reason, right? They have something they have a problem they're trying to fix, and so yeah, it's finding that balance.
it's funny because then there's probably the extreme end. Like if I really wanted to fix a behavior in my dog, I would actually pay penalty money if I didn't do something. So for example, if I get a reminder and like I didn't do that activity that day, then I should pay like $1 or something. I think that would motivate me to get it done. But I'm not sure if that's everyone.
You can probably take some of those similar like laws of learning for our dogs and just do it for us, right? Like, all right, you didn't do what you said you were going to. There has to be some type of consequence, even if it's just, being removed from a situation for dogs in particular. But yeah, I love that idea. That's really
Anyway, we're probably losing track here, but so out of the 10 courses you've got with Pupford, and there's over 70 different dog behaviors that you teach. What are the most popular lessons that people are watching and trying to access?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it gives us a good insight into what people generally struggle with. And one of our most popular courses is actually one of our first courses we ever launched. It's called 21 Impulse Control Games, and it's just that. It's 21 different we made it to be kind of like game-esque, where it's like do this, and then when your dog's that, and you have levels. You're progressing through those levels. But that's been one of our most popular ones. And I think part of that too is because it covers a wide range of behaviors, because we have a course that's just about leash walking. If your dog's good on a leash, you're not worried about it. But impulse control is just like a general part of a dog's like brain that has to be worked. And that course, it covers things that are challenges on the day to day, like your dog bursting through doors when you open them, or, your dog jumping up on guests, or, you set a plate down on your coffee table and your dog's heading right there to go after and figure out what's on there and maybe eat it. And so that's been a really fun course that I think a lot of people have had an enjoyable experience with, just because, impulse control is hard. It's hard for our dogs, and we try to make it fun. That course in particular, it's very more kind of like games versus problem solution.
Impulses are hard for us too. But so with that course, for example, 21 impulse control behaviors or whatever it was, if I log in, like get the course, log in, am I able to just choose the ones that I want to do, or is that a step-by-step thing that I need to go through?
Yeah, every course is kind of set up differently, but for the 21 impulse control games in particular, when you click in on a specific game, you can kind of see what behaviors that game is going to help with. So we give you kind of a really quick snapshot of like, this helps with jumping, this helps with leash reactivity, this helps with not focusing outdoors, and we kind of let people do their own path on that one. In the more problem solution courses, like for example our separation anxiety course, that's much more kind of regimented of like, start with module 1. We're going to talk about like the why first, and there'll be a quiz, and then we're going to move on to module 2. So our courses kind of give people both routes to go along, kind of based off of their preference and based off of just kind of what they're trying to solve.
That makes sense. And I think if you're trying to solve one specific problem, then a step-by-step course makes sense. But if you've got, the impulse control and maybe you're just trying to improve certain areas, and you can jump in there and make your own adventure to a certain degree.
Yeah, and I think we all, part of why I like that format is, you know, I think we oftentimes think of our dog's behavior as linear, where in reality it's up and it's down and it's up and it's digression. And so I think it's always like nice to be able to just pop in and say, wow, we had an instance at the park today and the dog was barking through the fence. Let's find a game. Let's work on this. Let's get that trend back up instead of going down.
So who's teaching all of your courses at Pupford?
Yeah, good question. So a couple of them are just like created internally here at Pupford, and those are for the less problem solution ones. So like 21 Impulse Control games, and then we have one called Recall Mastery. Those are taught in-house, but then the more technical, I guess it would be the right word, like problem behavior, those types of things. We've partnered with a handful of different trainers. We've worked with people like Amber Akar, Erica Gonzalez, a couple different, certified trainers. And we try to bring in as many different trainers as possible, because I think we've all, experienced this where, sometimes you go to a class or something in school and you just don't really vibe with how the teacher explains things or those types of things. So we've tried to kind of give a good rounded out group of trainers who can teach, so that, if you maybe don't love one of the ways that they're explaining it, you can go watch another course from someone else and get kind of a different perspective on it.
Yeah, that's good. Because as you said, like everyone's a bit different with the way they want to learn and the way they want to, apply things. And I'm sure they resonate with different trainers and everything. So it's good to have that diversity there.
Yeah, agreed. And I think a lot of people, it's good to hear, because we always try and keep our messaging positive of like, because I know I say this a lot, but like it really can be so hard, like especially in the puppy phase. And so I think just having like multiple people there in your corner, like, telling you, hey, you can do this, like the scratches and the bite marks on your hands, like they will heal, like keep at it kind of thing. So I think just that support group, like having all, the people around you is so helpful.
Yeah, I had a close friend of mine recently got a Cocker Spaniel puppy, and it was the first dog he got with his partner, and they lived together, and they just bought a new apartment and all this kind of stuff. And they, as much as, you tell people and they ask questions before they get a dog, he just had no idea how much it was going to be, up every couple of hours in the night to take it to the toilet, and like that's just the beginning of it all, right? So
it really, there's nothing that can prepare you for it other than just doing it, right? Because like you said, people will tell you like, hey, you got to know what you're getting into. But yeah, it's a challenge. Like it is a real challenge. And I think people, we can underestimate how much just time and effort it can take as well. Because, I think a lot of times you see these dogs walking down the street who are perfect on a leash. And in your mind, you're like, oh, great. Like that's super easy. But it's like, how many hours of practice did that owner put in with that dog to get to that, really good leash behavior?
Yeah, I think that first 6 to 12 months is so important. If you can work really hard in that period to kind of get some good habits and good behaviors, I guess the habits for yourself as well, about how you kind of interact with your dog and treat your dog, that's huge. And then kind of it does become, a lot easier after that.
Yeah, and then I mean, you can probably relate to this as well, but when my labs hit 3 years old, it was like a switch. Like they just mellowed out so much. It was amazing. And then so I always joke about that with people. It's like, just keep pushing. Like eventually your dog will not be a puppy anymore, and life will be a little bit more enjoyable.
I thought that would be the case. My dog still acts like a puppy, and she's 4.5. So I'm waiting for that to happen. But I mean, yeah. Anyway, so where can people find out about Pupford and all the cool stuff you're doing?
Yeah, good question. I think the easiest way is to go download our app. It's available on both iOS and Android, and it's available globally. You can just go into the App Store or the Google Play Store and search Pupford, and you'll see it up there. That's probably the easiest way. And then, of course, our website, pupford.com. And, of course, we're on all the social media places trying to put out helpful content to people. But I always tell people to go download the app. I think we've had a lot of feedback that that's kind of the best experience for our core competency of the dog training things.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll share the app link, but also the website and the social links. But so just so I've got a final understanding and everyone can understand how they can access all the Pupford resources. You've got a free course, but then is there one paid community, or is that split up into multiple courses?
Yeah, good question. So the free course is free forever. So we call it 30-day Perfect Pup because it's 30 days kind of worth of material, but that's actually free indefinitely. So when you download the app, you'll get access to that, and as well as a section called Train by Behavior, where we have 20 different behaviors. You can go click in, watch a video. There'll be some text instructions, that type of thing. And then the premium courses are part of what we call Pupford Academy. So that there's a few different ways to get a part of it. We have monthly subscriptions, we have a semi-annual plan, or we have a lifetime option where you can just say, I want to get it all, and I want to get, access forever for all the future courses that we release. We also allow people to purchase courses individually. So, if you're like, hey, my dog's pretty good, but the only thing I'm struggling with is recall, you can go purchase just Recall Mastery and get access to that. And the thing that I don't know, I'm really proud of it personally, like just because I'm like kind of a marketing geek and technology and all that stuff. But we've really improved the experience where you can access all of it from both the app and the Pupford website, all from one account, one login. It'll keep track of what days you've marked off and those types of things, and you can, sync back and forth. So I think a lot of people have really, really enjoyed that side of it.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, that seamless experience I think is important these days. It's good to know that people have multiple ways to buy, because it might feel overwhelming just to buy everything if you feel like you've only got one issue. But then the fact that you can access that, it's also so what I'm hearing is that people should download the app, and then they're going to have access to the 30-day free course. Seems like a great low risk place to start.
Yeah, 100%. And that is where you can also join the Facebook community. So the Facebook community is tied to the free course. We don't actually have any type of like premium community. But yeah, that free community. And I'll tell you, we always are just blown away at how many people are in there and are just, interacting and sharing experiences and helping each other out. Like there is a lot going on in that community. So even if you don't download the app or you don't want to go through a course format, just getting into that community is a really good place to connect with, like-minded pup parents and just, people going through the things that you're going through.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, dog parents are traditionally passionate about their dogs and passionate about helping other dog lovers. So that's probably why that community is thriving.
Agreed. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen this. You tell people to post a picture of their dog and you'll get hundreds and hundreds of comments, right?
Sometimes people just post a picture of their dog for no reason on the comment section of a post totally unrelated to that.
And all you can do is smile and say, thanks for brightening my day, right? I got to see another dog today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Devin, thanks so much for coming on the Dog Show today. I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about the dog training space and everything that Pupford's doing. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show, and hope a lot of people go and check out the app.
Thank you so much for having me. I really did enjoy it. It was nice chatting with you.